All right. What's happening, everybody? How we doing? Happy 2025, everybody. We are live over on Facebook, LinkedIn, and YouTube as we record another episode, the very first episode of Podcasts Suck for 2025. Let me throw my headphones on here. Some people like headphones for podcasts, and some people don't. I like to hear myself talk. Ha, 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 ha. No, but when I'm doing voice work or speaking or even podcasting, being able to hear myself and the guest in my headphones, well, just makes things a little bit easier, but it makes some people crazy to hear their own voice. Is that you? Do you not like the sound of your own voice? Let's change all that. Podcasting can change all that. All right, so I wanted to kick the year off with having just a very transparent and honest conversation with everyone that has been considering or had a podcast in the plans. You name it. I've heard every single Scooby-Doo ending potential thing you could ever possibly say about what you're going to do. Let me be frank. No one, and I mean no one, cares about what we're going to do and what we used to do. Got it? It's always those Wall Street guys. I used to work on Wall Street. No one cares about any of that. You immediately think Wolf of Wall Street. That's a bad example for podcasting, but the analogy or the example that I'm trying to draw here is that no one cares about what we used to do. The only thing that people care about is what we can do for them right now, which also means that the only thing that they care about is what you're currently doing, because those two things work together. So what are you doing right now? And what is that going to do to help somebody else? All right. So I've heard we're going into year 9. Well, yeah, this is year 9. We just started year 9. We're not going into year 9. We just started year 9 2 days ago in the world of podcasting. I've been a podcaster myself for the past 14 years, 15 years. And when we really got dialed in with podcasting and I got focused on this is all that I'm going to do was 2016. So 9 years ago, I said, this is the only thing I'm going to do. I'm going to speak, I'm going to do comedy, and I am going to help people launch podcasts and change their life and their business. That's it. Haven't looked back since. During those 9 years, I have heard literally every excuse you could ever possibly give someone about not doing something. So if you've been thinking about starting a podcast, let's just say it's been in the back of your mind. That's a good one. Let's see. Start a podcast is always in the back of someone's mind. It's always on the to-do list, on the chalkboard. We're looking at it for Q3, maybe even Q2. But the ones that actually do something with a podcast are the ones that say, I want to start a podcast because someone told me to, because I want to, because I had this inclination, because I had a dream, I had a sign, whatever it may be. The people that arrive at that place of knowing what their natural next step is, and then they actually go and take action. Massive action, meaning I'm starting a podcast. Great. What do I need to do? Well, hiring someone that's going to take care of all of the work, and this is not a shameless plug, but this is more of a delegation. My coach and the great Dan Martell wrote an incredibly amazing book that's a New York Times bestseller that everyone seems to be talking about lately, which is Buy Back Your Time. Big shout out to Dan and the incredible work that he does and the incredible human being that he is. Get around people that are doing things that you want to do and are places where you want to be. Dan wins. I want to win. Read his book. For starters, buy back your time. It's about delegating the things that are already on your plate. When it comes to a podcast, do not think that you're going to sit down and plan everything out and record the episodes and learn how to edit and figure out how to become a graphic designer with Canva and train your EA to be a podcast producer and have them chop up clips. And you can piecemeal all of this together. It will all lead to a road of no sustainability. That's right. Piecing it all together leads to something that is not sustainable long-term. Every time I've been able to streamline something, I've said, I'm going to do this. I've played my part in the role of creating whatever needs to get created, and then I've gotten it off my plate as soon as possible. The Podcast Launch Lab Agency is a great example of that. I am not involved behind the scenes. I know what goes on. I created the process. I taught the process. We constantly improve the process with the team. I am not involved. I would rather wake up in the morning, punch myself in the face, and eat my pillow than edit a podcast episode or anything that pertains to the back-end production and post-production of a podcast. However, there are individuals that love to do that. So first things first are the people that decide to start a podcast know that delegation is key. Delegating the work and getting it off their plate as soon as possible is the number one thing they need to do. That's why we're in business. Well, Sebastian, I'm just getting started. I mean, we can't afford to hire somebody. Well, conceptualize what you want to do. Piecemeal it together with what you have and the resources you have, and just get started. Make sure you even like it. Get in there and say, is this even valid? Am I going to like what I'm doing? That's important too. But the clients that have been with us for many years are the ones that pulled the trigger immediately, said, I don't want to do the work. I want to be the star of the show and record episodes, and I want somebody else to take care of the rest. Those are the ones that succeed. They make the investment with us to create a strategy, brand, concept, idea, learn who they're talking to, what they're talking about, how they're talking about it. Every single thing you could ever possibly need in order to start a podcast in 90 days or less is what our program does. You work one-on-one with me. You're not signing up. I'm not sending you to some course and we do one onboarding call and you never talk to me again. We're in the trenches. For the first 30 days, we're doing a call every single week and we're creating this from the ground up. The clients that have taken this strategy that we create and gone and done great things with it are the ones that were laser focused, very intentional with what they wanted to do, very intentional with their delegation. Hey, listen, sometimes I'm brought in just to help create a strategy for the client and their team. That's called a done with you solution. I'm going to tell you all my secrets. I'm going to give you a game plan. You're going to go do all the work. My team's not doing the work. That's our done for you solution. So just so you know, if you have a team of VAs that are very skilled at content and could very much be coachable and you can teach them something and a system on how it actually works, by all means, you're a fit to work with us. Significantly less investment for the done with you because it's just my time. I'm hopping on the phone with you in Zoom and I'm giving you a game plan, telling your team what to do and holding you accountable. Sometimes clients join our done with you solution and realize, well, we don't want our team to be occupied with all this. Let's just have your team do it. We just upgrade you to the done for you solution. I'm talking about all the options that we offer for our clients because this is the vehicle. This is exactly what you need in order to get started, but more importantly, get started, make it sustainable so you can do something great with it. Well, what do you mean by do something great with my podcast, Sebastian? A couple things. So there's two reasons that you're starting a podcast. Three. I added the third one this year because it's so relevant. Number one, you're starting a podcast so you can interview people that you want to build a relationship with and you want to do business with. That's number one. Number two, you're taking your podcast and you are repurposing the content from your podcast and chopping it up into micro content. Another thing that we offer our clients. Remember, full service, completely done for you. You record, we take care of the rest. So it's interviewing people you want to do business with, repurposing content from micro content to get your social media content game in check and consistent because you know your social media content game sucks and it's the furthest from consistent that it can possibly get. So that solves that problem. And the last, it makes you a better communicator. I always say, who do you get to become? What new version of yourself do you get to step into because you made a decision to start a podcast? That's what you have to ask yourself. Wow, I never even thought about that. And those are the things. That's why I do what I do. Because of the aha moments. That was very Oprah of me. But the aha moments of, wow, I didn't even know that this was possible. I didn't even know that this would have happened because I started a podcast. But back to my point, the people that find the best success with podcasts, people that get out there and leverage their podcast to close more deals, grow their business, increase sales, become better communicators, step into a completely different version of themselves, get their content game in check. Remember, if your content game's in check, that means you're showing up consistently in the newsfeed, on Instagram, on LinkedIn, consistently where the eyeballs are at and people are learning about you. Maybe they don't know about your podcast. Maybe they'll learn about you and your podcast and what you do through your micro content. You see how it's all interconnected? It all starts with a podcast. But the reality is the only reason that you have not started a podcast yet is because of your ongoing excuses. So my question to you is, where else is that showing up in your life? Where else are you talking about things that you should be doing or want to be doing or will be doing? That one's a cute one. But you're not, because your excuses outweigh your ability to take action. I love that quote that says the success that you're looking for is found in the work that you're avoiding. That applies to so many different areas. Massive action solves 80% of your problems as a business owner and entrepreneur if you just get started. It only takes one episode, one interview, you close a deal, one clip, you post on social, one person finds you, one person reaches out. That one time you look in the mirror after recording an episode and you're like, you know what? I got this. I'm no longer terrified of public speaking. I'm going to do more of it. It just takes one. But your excuses are holding you back. Period. End of statement. Think about that. The goal of this episode is to get in your head. I want to get so far in your head, I keep you up at night thinking about you being able to figure out a way through your excuses and into the game. I always say you can't win the game if you're on the bench. But who's missing out? Because you're not showing up. Who's missing out because you're not showing up as a podcaster? It just takes one conversation that you could have with someone that your listeners hear, that they could go out and listen to me very carefully, radically change their life forever because of something you said. That's a huge responsibility. We're all given that responsibility. Some actually do something with it. Some don't. That's on you. But you know one thing that never goes away? Regret. Shoulda, coulda, woulda. Tony Robbins talks a lot about people that say they should be doing this and should be doing that. They find themselves shoulding all over themselves. Are you shoulding all over yourself? Talking about what you should be doing? It's on the chalkboard. Just stop. The only person you're lying to is yourself. And someone's missing out. I guarantee it. I tell myself that daily. When I don't feel like it, somebody's going to miss out. Somebody's watching this or listening to this podcast episode right now. They're getting something from it. They're fired up. Hopefully you're jumping up and down on your bed. I don't know where you're at, wherever you are, and you are re-energized and refocused on where you're at with your priorities of actually launching a podcast. Because it's the very beginning of 2025 right now. This conversation can be drastically different 12 months from now if you take massive action right now. You got two options. Hire somebody that takes care of all the work for you. Or if you already have a team in-house that can support you, hire an expert that can help you create a strategy and a brand that your team can then go execute on week after week and month after month. 4 episodes a month, 60 episodes per year, 48 episodes per year. My math's terrible. Can radically change your life. Why am I qualified to say that? Because I've lived it. And now I teach people and empower people through our program to do the same exact thing. I got a client on his way to me right now. We're going to go grab lunch. He made $50,000 from one podcast interview. He does retail point of sale, everything up to swiping the card. So all the hardware, the points and rewards and whatnot for retail locations. Had one guy on with multiple locations, made $50,000 on one podcast episode. It doesn't matter what you do or what you sell. There's a way for you to build relationships and network with people through your podcast. Because it's not a sales call. It's not another meeting. It's not a lunch meeting. Let's grab coffee. You're not picking their brain. You are, but you're doing it in a productive way because you're making it all about them and you're stroking their ego. So as we start this brand new year of 2025, I want you to think long and hard about your priorities. Make a decision. You're either starting a podcast this week, next week, 6, whatever, this month, or you're not doing it at all. What are you waiting for? That's my question. Like, what could you possibly be waiting for to start a podcast? Is something going to be easier 6 months from now? Is something going to be more affordable 6 months from now? Have you seen the price of eggs and bacon? Probably not. Actually, maybe the eggs will go down a little bit and the bacon will. Fingers crossed. There's no perfect time. There's no someday. There's no one day. It's right now. There's a clock ticking that none of us can see. That's right. We are just passing through. It's time to get ridiculously laser focused and serious about this podcast strategy, or just don't do anything at all. But stop talking about it if you're not going to do something about it. Does that make sense? It's kind of like all the people that don't vote, but they want to complain about politics. You don't have a dog in the fight unless you're actually doing it. So my question to you is, what are you going to do about it? You've talked about starting a podcast. I got a whole database of promises and ideas and excuses from people. It's up to you. It all starts with a decision, and it starts right now. You're either in or you're out. Just scratch it off the to-do list because the time is right now. I beg and implore you to really dig deep within yourself and get clear. Have an honest conversation. Don't lie to yourself. You just spin your wheels when you do that. Have an honest, sobering conversation with yourself about what is possible if I just do it. Just jump in the pool. Go. Because I guarantee you by next month, you're going to see something, some sort of traction happening. It's just the way things operate when we put things into action. Those of you watching the live recording of this podcast episode, thanks for tuning in. Feel free to drop comments below. If you're listening to the actual podcast episode of Podcast Suck, thanks for tuning in, everybody. Make sure you tell your friends about the show. If you know somebody who wants to start a podcast or is a podcaster, leave us a review over on Apple, and I think you can leave some stars or something like that over on Spotify. But I'm wishing all of you a very healthy and prosperous and all of the above 2025. And if you've been thinking about starting a podcast, do it. If it's just a bunch of excuses, just stop thinking about it. Either way, I'm here to support you. Questions, thoughts, ideas, concerns, hit me up on Instagram at Podcast Suck. There's a link in my bio to book a call. If you think maybe hiring someone to get this process started for you is a good play, FYI, it is. If you've got a team that can execute for you, you just need to know what to do. Our Done With You solution is a great program as well. I will catch you guys on the next episode. Enjoy your weekend. Let's rock and roll 2025.